I want to talk about like
Yeah.
dysfunctional patterns, like how do we get over that? And then also
Yeah.
like the whole part of like neuroplasticity and how we can actually implement a new habit even when it feels hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that they actually go together.
Mm.
That the cycle breaking is also the cycle making. Like those are not two separate processes. Like as soon as you break a cycle, it's because you're beginning a new one.
What if the clutter in your closet is a mirror reflection of what's actually happening on your deeper inside emotions, right? And so on this episode of Closet Therapy, I get the opportunity to talk to, oh my gosh, she's absolutely amazing, award-winning, best-selling author, Kobe Campbell. And we're going to dive into all the things that come up in the closet and kind of navigate the emotions, the triggers, the things that like really make our feathers ruffle. And so I have to do and give her the flowers and the honor. And so I'm going to read her short bio and then I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself before we dive into the interview. Okay. So Kobe Campbell is an award-winning trauma therapist, best-selling author, and consultant dedicated to helping people navigate the complexities of mental health, faith, and relationships. As founder of the Healing Circle Therapy and Wellness Center and visionary behind Oasis, which I want to dive into as well, she creates safe spaces for leaders, creatives, and professionals to heal, grow, and thrive. With 250,000 followers, Kobe also shares insights to inspire thousands to break cycles and reclaim emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. Kobe, welcome to Closet Therapy.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Excited to chat.
Me too. All right. So beyond the titles and all the things, I just read your wonderful bio. Can you just tell our listeners who is Kobe Campbell without the titles?
Ooh, who am I without the titles? Is mom a title?
Yeah. Yeah. Clock it.
Okay. Okay, let me not go there. I am just a girl who likes nice things, rest, quiet spaces, the sound of the ocean, and curated spaces.
I like curated spaces. And let's dive into the
Yeah.
curated spaces of
Oh,
Oasis.
yeah. Yes.
What exactly is Oasis?
Ooh, Oasis is the retreat that I developed almost 7 years ago now. And it is an experiential retreat and intensive. So it's not
Mm.
just like you come in and you get the frillies and it feels good. You do get that. But what an intensive is you go deep into doing therapeutic work in long uninterrupted times. And research shows that it gives you quicker symptom relief. So think you're getting
Mm.
like 6 months of therapy in 3 days. You're getting that level of breakthrough. And so I love science and we do the science backed. So for us, we find that research shows that healing happens quicker in community than in isolation. So the only way that's better than going to individual therapy is getting healing resources in a
Mm.
group. So we developed cohorts of women who have similar stories so that they go through the experience together. And when they leave, they already have built-in community of people to process the experience with. Because it's cohort developed, it's not just me leading it, it's me and my team of Christian trauma trained
Mm.
therapists that I bring in from around the country. So I think there's 4 groups and 4 therapists, and everyone's just rotating. So everyone gets to see every therapist. And then with each cohort, you get an extra therapist that goes through the entire experience with you. And so we are like trying to give the girlies what they need, not just the inspiration, but the true breakthrough that they can take home, that they can chew on for the next month or so.
Mm.
Um, it's my favorite thing to do. I've seen women's lives literally changed in 72 hours. So our tagline is life shifting breakthrough in 72 hours.
First of all, when's the next one? Can I sign up? Because
Maybe shoot me a text. Shoot me a text. It's in January. It's January 15th to the 18th. It's going to be in Southern California at the Oaks Retreat Center.
This is where I'm
Yeah.
at. I'm in Southern California. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited. So excited to have it. Yeah.
No, I think that's so awesome because, first of all, to be able to cultivate a space for women to
Mhm.
actually work together through it. And when you
Yeah.
mention science, like I am a scientist by degree. So when
I
you
love
talk about
that.
that and talk about bringing in the Lord, okay, it sounds like a party
Yes.
to me.
Yes.
All right. So
Good old
I
party.
definitely want more information, like side note off the side of
For
this, because
sure.
I think that's like absolutely incredible. So
Oh, thank you.
I'm not going to hijack the interview because I got to help the listeners. It's not about me today. Okay. But I do want to discuss this book that you wrote. Okay. Because first of all, okay, why am I like this? How many times have we asked ourselves that question? Like, and I'm going to
Yep.
use it and say in our closets, like in our like private spaces, like, why do I keep
Yes.
doing this? Why am I like this?
Yep.
I really want to dive a little bit into the book. Like I had a few pages like earmarked, and
Uh-huh.
I love reading physical books. I'm not a digital person at all. There's
Yeah.
just something to it, the connection. But I love how you are bringing light to like the darker spaces using like why am I like this, because it was so
Yeah.
relatable. And so I just
Mhm.
want to know like the inspiration. I've heard a few of your interviews like as far as
Yeah.
like around the book and like when you were launching the book and going on like
Yeah.
your mini book tour.
Yeah.
But I want to know for you, what was something that you got out of writing this book for yourself that was healing?
Woo. I think that when God shows up for you in these little, I'm gonna call them a la carte moments, you can be like, "Oh my God, thank you God so much," and then you move on, and then you're like, "Oh God, are you gonna show up for me?" And then he shows up again, and then you're like, "Oh my God, he did it. Thank you, Jesus." But when I got to write it out and slowly absorb the reality of where I started to where I am, it gave me confidence. It gave me confidence, like, "Whoa, I didn't even realize that happened and that happened and that happened, and we started so far back,
Mm.
and I'm at this place I could not have even imagined." There are moments where I would be writing, and I was like, "I can't believe I'm writing a book. I can't believe I'm writing a book." So, it gave me this confidence that, like, God will work it out. God will provide, and the onus of transformation is not on me.
Mm.
The availability is on me, but the transformation, that's what God does when you're available.
All right. You about to hijack my whole podcast. Because wow. I love, first of all, I love that. And I love that with the book, you were willing to explore the spaces that people don't really want to dive into, like those deep, dark spaces. I just love
Yep.
that about you. Even with like all your content, like you are
Thank
saying
you.
the things that some people don't want to say. And I always
Yeah.
say, like, for me, this is why I coined you like the voice of our generation, like what we
Oh my
need. And I'm
gosh.
so
Wow.
like
Thank
grateful
you.
that like you were willing to answer the call and like even write this book and allow yourself to be vulnerable. And so
Oh,
I
thank
really want
you.
to dive into this space of like the closet, right? And
Mhm.
one of the spaces that people are too afraid to look. And so as I mentioned, like
Yeah.
I'm I'm a scientist by degree. I actually just recently, like last year, got back into the world of science. Like one of my friends
Wow.
that we studied undergrad, she's a neuroscientist at Columbia, and she put me in touch with her mentor. So I just kind of been like weaving through their labs and like sitting in
Yeah.
different lab meetings because I started to see this trend happening in the closets. And I've been doing closets for like A-list celebrities to everyday people for the past decade. And I
Wow.
started to see this trend. And I'm like, there's something here. And I really believe that God gave me this lane because there's
Mm.
organizers, there's people out there just like, oh, I'm going to turn chaos,
Yeah.
into calm. And I'm like, I'm so
Yeah.
tired of hearing that. Like, there's not enough
Yeah.
research around like clutter and like what it does to
Mhm.
your body. And I
Yep.
really believe like being in this like most intimate space, like with people and they're sharing their stories, stuff that I've gone through, grief and like,
Yeah.
just insecurities, all this stuff
Yeah.
that I'm seeing. I'm like, there needs to be more research around this. So when you had an article, I believe it was in Essence, like in the top, like
Yes.
April of this year, it was called
Yep.
What Happens When Decluttering Triggers Trauma. And
Yeah.
then you had posted like all my I think it was like about the Container Store, the Alpha Closet system, and you was like, all
Yes.
my influencers come to the front right now, like come to
Yeah.
the front. And I'm like,
No one
girl,
told me that.
we were late meeting on our paths because I would have helped you out for sure. But
Yes.
I feel I had this hypothesis about the closet, and as a scientist, you
Mhm.
know, the whole point about science is like testing hypotheses and you
Yep.
know our theories. And for me, like what made me get back into like the world of science in the lab and like really understanding neuroscience, it was like I believe that the closet is the most overlooked space in our home. Like it's the space that holds the
Mm.
most weight, like our
Yeah.
insecurities, the tears. Like even think about when you were a kid, like you call yourself running away, or that's my story. I would run into
Yeah.
my closet because I felt safe there.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
I feel that space is overlooked, but yet it's the space that has the most possibility for transformation. And so when you're
Yes.
diving deep into these like dark spaces or unturning rocks that people don't want to look under, I
Yeah.
feel like you understand, like as a
I
trauma
do.
therapist.
Yes. You know what? I feel like the closet is a great metaphor for your inner self.
Mm.
Like how someone, I believe, how someone treats their closet can often reflect how they treat themselves. A closet is a space that is only for the person who dwells in the room. It's
Mm.
not something that you show off, right? Which is why we don't prioritize it. And like the way that we treat it is a reflection of what we think about the things that no one sees except for us. You know, like, how do I treat myself when no one's looking? How do I treat myself when no one's around? I feel like that's like the metaphor for the closet. Like, how do you treat the places that nobody sees except for you? How do you show it care? Do you show it intention? Or do you just throw everything in there because there's no eyes on it but your own? And then there's the other side of it is like, are your eyes not worthy eyes? You know, like the fact that you see it, isn't that good enough? Doesn't the thing that you look at, doesn't that deserve the same intention as the things that other people's eyes are on? You know, or do we only curate things for other people's eyes and not our own? Do we only
Mm.
invest intentionality into things that other people can see but not the things that we can see, you know, which is why I got the Alpha system. I said, I want a color coded closet, even if no one sees it, because that's what makes me feel good. Like, we moved into a new house and I had the choice between kind of like working on the living room first or working on our bedroom first. Now, I wanted to work on the living room first because that's what people would see. And I felt challenged to say no, actually, by my friend who's an interior designer. And she was like, no, you take care of your room first because
Mm.
that's the room you have to be in every single day. And that's the room that you have to be in before you go into the world.
First of all, Kobe, listen, you speak in my language, and I am so happy that there's someone else that has this perspective because I always say that I'm like, we frequent our closets like at least twice a day. And so
Yeah.
when you're entering the space, it's the first place you frequent when you get up in the morning. It's the place that
Yep.
you go at night when you're like
Yep.
switching out your clothes from the day, and it has the
Yep.
power to actually kickstart your day. And as someone that
Mhm.
like understands like what's going on within us, like our internal parts,
Yeah.
our minds, etc. Like I always tell people like if your closet is in chaos and you're entering there in the morning, like what you're doing is triggering to your brain like there's a state of chaos and you're releasing that unnecessary hormone that we don't want to
Yep.
release, which is cortisol, which
Yep.
spikes our stress, which spikes the
Yep.
anxiety. And you're
Yep.
wondering why, like, oh my gosh, like I'm having a bad, like if you start your day off right, like at least if that goes right, you have
Yeah.
enough of an anchor to take you and carry you into the rest of your day.
Yes, yes. There was a study, I need to find it. I forgot the title of it, but this is what kind of kicked me off into like the space between interior design and mental health and wellness was I read this study and it talked about how you feel about your house is the greatest predictor of the mood you will have for the day.
Hmm.
And I remember reading it and I was like, I don't even have to read all this through. I know that's true because there are times where I'm in bed and I get up and I just see the clutter and I'm like, let me get back in bed and just close my eye. Like, I don't even want to, you know, and it's what made me invest in, you know, consultations and stuff. It made me say, like, I want my home to be a sanctuary not just for the aesthetics, of other people, but like for me, I want to
Mm.
wake up and there's an environment I want to wake up in, and I'm responsible for creating that. And I
Yes.
noticed that the more I curated my home to my nervous system and what regulated me,
Mm.
the easier my days were. Like it just felt like everything was like, ah, like that. The kids could be running around, jumping off my couch, all the things. And I even with the chaos of the children, because they got to be there, I still felt calm. It felt like, oh, this is not there's an investment when you that you make in your mental health and in your nervous
Mm.
system when you say, I am going to let this space be designed to benefit how God has designed me.
That is so good. That is so good. So listen, y'all. If you are just hopping into the podcast, like we're not just talking about hangers and folding clothes and getting organized and all that stuff is great.
Yeah.
But today we are literally going to be talking about the triggers, the identities, the wounds that we tuck away in our closets. And Kobe is really going to help us like uncover those things. I mean, I have
Yeah.
so many personal things. I might have to pay her for a private therapy session because I'm like, girl, there's some stuff in my closet that I need to get out. But it's about y'all today. So I'm going to help you guys out. And I have so many questions, but I really
Yes.
want to dive into talking about triggers. In your
Yeah.
book, I'm going to read this real quick. On page 119 is something that like really
Yes.
stuck out to me.
Let me pull it out too.
It says the word trigger has without a doubt become a buzzword as our culture seeks to gain an understanding of mental health and trauma. Unfortunately, everything that becomes quickly and widely understood is usually oversimplified. And I felt like that hit me because I feel like with culture, we can take a
Yeah.
word and we can water it down and not know the depth or effect of it. And so
Yeah.
I really want for someone who has never been to therapy, I've been in therapy for 14 years now. Okay. I
Yes,
love
girl, get
therapists.
it.
So I want you to explain to them like what exactly is a trigger and how does it actually get stored into our body?
Yes, absolutely. So when I explain triggers to people, because sometimes I can get too clinical and they're like, what are you talking about? But if I was just explaining what a trigger was to somebody, I would say a trigger is re-experiencing the past. Re-experiencing the past, not
Mm.
just remembering the past, but re-experiencing the past. I can remember a painful moment and be like, ooh, that did not feel good. I didn't like that. But a trigger is your body biologically responding to the present as if you were in the past.
Mm.
It's like feeling the heat of a fire in the absence of a flame. Right. They're literally, I remember doing one of my final research studies in grad school about phantom limb pain for
Mm.
veterans and how they had no limb, but their brain was re-experiencing the pain of a limb that was no longer there. Right? A trigger is when the past didn't make sense to you. The past was so painful to you, so confusing that your brain could not store it correctly. And because your brain doesn't store this memory in a way that says you're safe, you're okay, any part of that memory that occurs in the present throws your nervous system back into the state that it was when things didn't make sense and things were painful and you were in that traumatic
Mm.
situation. And so it pulls you back, right? It pulls you back into this state of fear, shame, confusion, anger. Um, but it's tied back to a situation. That's a key differentiator I make with my clients.
Mhm.
The difference between something that's just painful and something that's triggering is that a trigger is a painful moment in the present that brings you back to something that's already happened, whereas
Mm.
something that's painful is just rooted in the present.
That's so good. And you simplified it so that it's like relatable. Cause sometimes again, like even as a scientist, like you start using like words and other jargon and they're like,
Mhm.
people are like, what? Like this makes no
Yep.
sense. But I think now in like 2025, I would say like we are so mindful of making sure that like we break it down so that people can
Yeah.
apply it. Because what's the point of
Yeah.
having like information that you cannot apply? Right. And so
Yeah.
I want to ask you this
Absolutely.
question. Man, I got so many questions. This is so good. But this
Ask
is
them
so
all.
good to me. Okay, this is like really feeding my soul. I don't know why. But what would you say, like when like, let's say you go in your closet and you have like a shirt or an item, or, because people look at the closet as just a storage space. Like, I'm just putting my
Yeah.
clothes in there, like whatever, like, or they have something, but they
Yeah.
find something in the process of whether they're organizing or decluttering a shirt or something from a past, like, generationally
Mhm.
passed down, and it triggers them. Like, what is actually taking place? Like, how would you break down like what's going on in their mind and how they're experiencing the emotion? And they shove it right back into the closet though. They don't take it out.
Mhm.
They hold on
Mhm.
to it. Why?
Mhm. Mhm. She's like, tell me why. You
Like,
know,
why?
it is never about the thing. It is always about what the thing represents.
Mm,
When you pick up that piece of clothing, what does that represent? Does that represent the complicated grief of an emotionally absent mom who's now passed away? Does it represent an old relationship that was toxic, but it was also the first time that you were pursued, and that's his sweatshirt, and you really need to let it go, but you don't really want to let it go because letting it go means like you're letting go of a tangible reminder of the first time a guy pursued you. Like, it's never about the thing. It's always about what the thing represents. And for my clients, sometimes when you say to someone, what does that represent? That can feel like a confusing question to some
mm.
people. And so something I would ask a client is, tell me the story behind this. Like, tell me the story behind
Yeah.
this sweatshirt. Tell me the story behind this sock. And like, then asking, now, how does that intersect with the story that you want to live out right now?
So it's like, does this represent like your present life? Like, does this represent
Yeah.
who you are trying to actually be or become? And like,
Yeah.
why are you afraid to let go of it? And sometimes when I'm going through the process of like decluttering, I like to call it an edit. Some people call it a
Yeah.
purge. People get scared
Yeah.
of when you hear the word purge. So I don't use that word.
Yeah.
They're like, purge, you gonna throw all my stuff away? It's like, no, girl,
Yes.
we're gonna
Yeah.
edit. Okay. We're just gonna do a
Yes.
slight edit.
Yes.
But I
Mhm.
noticed, like, I always ask them, I'm like, okay, so you're holding on to this. I had a client that she was holding on to a clock from a friend that passed away. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, did your friend like love this clock? Was it like something that like they cherish or that was passed? And they're like,
Yeah.
no, it just reminds me of them. And so I'm like, now we need to have a conversation. Now, let me just
Yeah.
make this disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist. That's why I have Kobe here. I am a scientist. But
Yeah.
I was curious to know, like, why are you holding on to this thing? And so I told her, I was like, the best thing about our brains is that it doesn't know the difference between what is real and what's false, right? And so
Yeah.
even if you took a photo of this, like, let's remove the object from out of your
Yeah.
closet so you're not holding on to it. And so I tend to use that kind of like anchor when I'm like trying to help people to
Yeah.
release something. For you, if you were to enter a closet,
Yep.
what are some of the signs that you would look for? Like, maybe what's like one question that our listeners can like go in their
Mhm.
closet and ask themselves the question to really see where a wound in their space is that is kind of like
Ooh.
mirroring what's happening internally.
Mm. I would ask, what is a piece or an item in your closet that you dislike, but you haven't thrown away?
Hmm.
It's so funny. Like, me and my sister do it all the time. I'll go into her closet. I'm like, this is cute. She's like, I hate that. And I'm like, why you still have it? You know? And it's like, you don't really like it, but it's still there, which turns into like, tell me the story behind this, you know?
Yeah.
What's the thing? What's the reason why it's still there? And even like the example you gave about the clock,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people need to be walked through because really emotionally
Mm.
weighty situations can keep our most sharp logic at bay sometimes. So I might even ask a client or someone I was working with in that capacity, do you feel like your friend is easily forgettable? Oh my
Ah.
gosh, no, I'd never forget her. What are some other things that remind you of this friend? Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, anytime I see a clock with two hands, I do think about her. Okay, well, let's commit to anytime you see a clock with two hands, just think a good thought about her.
Mm. You're giving
That
me
like
tools for my
sometimes,
toolbox. Like, yes,
yeah,
it's like I help
yeah,
these
that
people.
like you like sometimes we think that things hold power, but they only hold as much power as we give them,
Mm.
right?
That's good. Cause even with, okay, so I'm gonna pull from your psychology background too, right?
Mhm.
Like when you attach, and this is something that I tell people too, I'm like, when you
Yeah.
attach a meaning to something, you make it even
Hmm.
more meaningful or hard to let go. And even when you
Yeah.
watch shows like Hoarders, right? Like you see
Yeah.
that but to them, they've attached something in their mind where it's like, no, this means
Yep.
this, right? Like this
Hmm.
has a meaning. I cannot let go of it. And Hoarders is
Yeah.
a whole nother level. It's like actually like a mental illness. So I'm always mindful,
Yeah.
like when people are like, I'm a hoarder, I'm like, watch what you say,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
there's another
Yeah.
level to this. You're not a
Yeah.
hoarder. I want to
Yeah.
ask you, like in terms of like neuroplasticity, you actually talk about it in your book as well.
Hmm.
So this is a shameless plug. Y'all need to go get this book because it really was like getting to my spirit. But anyway, like the neuroplasticity, like forming new neural pathways. And I actually was having a
Hmm.
conversation with a friend, and I was trying to tell her, like, there sometimes when things feel hard or like you're trying to
Hmm.
do something new, like, and you're
Hmm.
frustrated, like your brain is trying to create a new pattern, right? And
Yeah.
so this is like a two-part question. I want to talk about like
Yeah.
dysfunctional patterns, like how do we get over that? And then also
Yeah.
like the whole part of like neuroplasticity and how we can actually implement a new habit, even when it feels hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that they actually go together.
Mm.
That the cycle breaking is also the cycle making. Like those are not two separate processes. Like as soon as you break a cycle, it's because you're beginning a new one,
Mm.
right? And so this is going to be answer to both of the questions.
Yeah.
You said even when it feels hard, I feel like it's so important for us to know that the point of it is that it will feel hard. Like when we're like, wait, this feels hard, when we're surprised by the condition of challenge that we feel, it makes us feel like we're doing something wrong. But when
Mm.
we prepare ourselves and say, this is supposed to feel uncomfortable, this is supposed to feel unfamiliar, we're more willing to sit in that emotion and not let it be the reason why we stop doing something if we know that it's a part of the process, right? So when we're building new neurological pathways, comes from action. It comes from action, right? So if you want to create a new neurological pathway and if you want to strengthen that pathway, you have to take action, which means you have to do something that is oftentimes the very antithesis of what you typically do. So if you're someone who keeps all the things, you might need to we will titrate. We'll start small and get big.
Yeah.
You know, you might need to start with like the thing that's teeny tiny and be like, I'm throwing this away. Or even timing, right? Typically, that sit on my desk for 3 weeks and then I throw it away. But today, I used it. I do not need it, and I'm going to throw it away, right? And sometimes people are like, "Oh my gosh, but what if I need it? But what if?"
Yep.
And so, what I love to do, this is an idea from Dr. Becky Kennedy, who I absolutely love. She talks about the idea of emotional vaccination, right? The
Mm.
idea of vaccination is that you expose the body to the virus in a small dose so that the body knows what to do when it experiences the virus in a bigger dose. Right. So it's a thought exercise to expose someone in a non overwhelming way to the worst case scenario, because it might happen, right?
Mm.
What happens if I throw it away? Okay, what would you feel if you threw it away?
Yes.
They start hyperventilating, feeling frustrated. I don't know, and it's like, okay, like let's start.
Hmm.
Let's start at the beginning of the day. You get out of bed. What does this missing? How does this missing item affect your morning routine?
Mm.
It doesn't. Okay. All right. How does this missing item affect you getting to work, doing your work, and coming home? It doesn't. Okay. So how does this affect your nighttime routine? It doesn't. Okay. How does this affect how you connect with your friends? It doesn't. And as you walk through it,
Hmm.
they start to, instead of you just saying it's going to be okay, you're walking them through the literal instances where they're having to deal with the cognitive dissonance of saying, I can't live without this thing. And yet this thing does not affect me on a daily basis.
I love
Right.
that. So I have a question for you too, like in regards to that. So I have a digital program that is called Closet Therapy,
Mhm.
and I sometimes before I even dive into like, oh, we're gonna get rid of stuff, etc., I have them journal. So would that be
Yeah.
kind of like similar to like walking them through verbally, or do you think that it makes a difference if they're saying it versus writing it?
I think writing it might even be better than saying it.
Mm.
You know, that
Mm-hmm.
writing allows for the process of bilateral stimulation. Writing, journaling is a great way to help people build emotional literacy, to help people build emotional regulation, because you cannot write as fast as you think.
Yes.
So you have to slow down and think about, do I mean this word?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not like, and then I was, but what was I talking about?
Yeah.
And then we said, like,
That's not
there's
like my
there's a
life.
level of distraction that's eliminated when you have to write. I think that'd be a great exercise. Hey, like, imagine that you had to throw away this item. Now, in detail, write about day one of you living without this item. Be as
Mm.
detailed as possible from morning to night.
That's
What
good.
would have changed?
That's good. I wonder, like, even using that in relationships. Like, what if I have to let go of this relationship? Like, how
Yep,
do that's deep. Okay.
yep, yep.
Okay. So I want to ask you this. Why do we avoid opening a messy closet the same way we avoid hard conversations or therapy sessions? Why do you think that is?
Mm. I think it's because we know that the only way to the end goal is through work.
Mm.
You cannot you cannot get a clean closet without picking up each individual item, deciding what you're going to do with it,
Hmm.
figuring out how you're going to store it. Am I going to hang it? Am I going to fold it? Am I going to put it on some pants hangers? How am I going to organize it? With each item you pick up, you have to figure out, what am I going to, or am I even going to keep it?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the same thing with relationships. Sometimes we avoid conversations because a conversation is going to demand that we put value
Hmm.
on the things that we've experienced in the relationship. It means we have to deal with the thing. We have to get close to it. We have to touch it. And I think for a lot of us, it's scary because we want the end result, but we do not want
To
like
do
the
the
mess.
work.
Hmm.
That's so
Hmm.
true. And I also think, like, I had a client that like was actually trying to organize, like I did her closet and she was like, I can do my pantry. I can do it myself. Literally, she pulled out probably half that pantry and sent me a message and with a picture of that pantry said, I closed the door. Can you come over? Like, so
Yes.
what did
Woo.
she started and then immediately got overwhelmed and was like, yeah, I tried
Yeah.
this. Like, I'm not doing this. You can come over. What is that? Is that like a pattern disruption or like where you feel like, oh, this
Yeah.
looks easier than it is, but you feel confident? Have you done this? I'm like,
Mm.
has this been your story?
I've seen, I think, the therapy equivalent of this, and I think that there's many different ways we can look at it.
Mm.
One, I think that sometimes we feel like if I made the mess by myself, I have to clean it up by myself.
Mm.
And there are some messes that we can make by ourselves that we cannot clean up by ourselves.
That's facts.
And it's like, yep, it got real disorganized with just me, just these two hands and these 2 feet. I can't clean this up. Like I need help,
Yeah.
right? I also think on the other end, because I think I see this a lot with therapy, where people are like, oh yeah, I don't need another session. I'm good. Sometimes we're also looking for the cheapest way to get to the end result,
Oh,
but the cheapest way is not always the best way,
yes.
because there's a value of learning from someone who's dedicated their life to understanding the situations we're in. Right? It's like, oh,
Yes.
like people using ChatGPT for therapists. Like, ChatGPT can't give you presence. It can't give you active listening. It can't give you the physiological cues. It can't give you eye contact. It can't give you the tone and affect that you hear with your ears. You know, so
And it's not
there's,
always accurate. Like it'll give you something and you be like, well, I found this study because I've tried it. Okay, I'm guilty. I'm gonna be
mhm,
vulnerable. I've
mhm.
tried it. I was like, hey, chat, but you go in and you try to say like, well, find me the resource or where you got this from. And it can't even find a
It'd be a
scientific
blog.
paper on what they're telling you. So like right now, it's just going based
Yep,
off of whatever you see on the internet or whatever it's like picked up. So it's
yep,
not. I
yep,
you said
yep.
you done preached the whole message right there. I'm just going. So, what is the hidden cost of never addressing, like never facing the clutter, whether it's mental or physical clutter? What would you say is the hidden cost of it?
Mm. When you don't face the clutter, you are not attuned with how the clutter affects you.
Hmm.
Just because you don't give something attention doesn't mean it doesn't affect you. And a lot
Good.
of people think, oh, if I don't talk about it, if I don't look at it, if I don't address it,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to affect me. And that's just not how it works, right? Like there are, and also there's like an atrophying in your soul that happens. If we don't use it, we lose it, right? That's true of our physical bodies, but it's also true of our soul. If you're someone who doesn't like to share vulnerably, you're actually just making it harder for you to share vulnerably in the future. If you're not someone who
Mm.
asks for help, you're making it harder for you to ask for help in the future. If you don't clean up your closet today and you keep living and wearing clothes, you make it harder for yourself to get a clean closet as time goes on. So
Yes.
I always tell my clients, you have to choose to let go of the momentary relief. You have to let go of what makes you feel good right now for what will make you feel proud in the long run.
That's so good. So I want to dive into another section of
Mhm.
like the podcast, but I do want to ask you a question before we do. Like when someone is going through trauma, right? And like
Mhm.
I even want you to kind of describe trauma because that's another word that like outside of triggers that we like, oh, I'm just trauma. It's like, no, it's not just stuff that's like
Yeah.
something that's happened in the body like PTSD or whatever, like trauma. You explain it even in your book, which is really good. So I want you to
Mm.
give a description of that. But when someone's going through trauma, like how do you recommend that they begin decluttering without triggering like the overwhelm or the shame?
Mm. That's a great question because I think there's a little bit of debunking that happens in there.
Mm.
It's a little bit like asking, how do you clean out a closet without making a mess?
Mm.
Like the mess is part of the process of getting to a clean closet, right? So I would one define trauma. Trauma is any past wound. The word trauma in Greek translates to wound. Any past wound that affects how we perceive the present, how we exist in the present, and how we perceive the future,
Hmm.
right? That is different than something that just hurts. If I stub my toe now, if I hit my toe on the corner of a bed, it's going to hurt. It might hurt
Sure.
for the day, but is it going to affect how I walk for the rest of my life?
Mm.
Is it going to affect what am I going to think about corners every single time I'm walking? No, I'm probably going to forget I stubbed my toe in a couple of hours, right?
Yeah.
But on a neurological level, trauma is these painful instances that plays on a loop in our brain, consciously and subconsciously, that makes our brain actually hyper fixated on the type of pain that we're most avoidant of,
Mm.
right? The like it's when we are experiencing abandonment, our
Yeah.
brain becomes hyper fixated on looking for abandonment, all while not wanting to talk about abandonment, right? So like trauma is a wound, it's a wound. So
Yeah.
I always like to tell my clients that trauma is not the instance, it is the wound. If I take a hammer and I hit you in the knee with it, I wouldn't do that. But if I hit you in the knee with it, the trauma wouldn't be the fact that I hit you. The trauma would be the wound that's in your knee.
Yes.
Because if I took the hammer and threw it into the ocean, just because the hammer's gone doesn't mean the wound is gone. So I like to
Hmm.
correct my clients and say, no, you didn't experience trauma in the past. You're experiencing trauma right now because the wound is still with you,
Wow.
right? And part of healing trauma is being triggered.
Mm.
I think that is actually one of the biggest oxymorons of our time is people want to heal their trauma without being triggered, but a trigger is a reminder of the trauma. And to heal trauma, we have to give it attention, right? Now, we
Hmm.
do it in a safe way. When someone's first experienced trauma, they may have some space from the thing that reminds them, that triggers them. But that space is not for avoidance, that
Yeah.
space is for resourcing, understanding how to identify emotions, understanding how to regulate emotions, understanding how to build social support, spiritual support, nutrition in the body, sleep, nutrition, all the things, right? So we're building resources to go back in and look at the things that are distressing so that our brain can make sense of them and our brain can understand that we're no longer in danger and so that our nervous system can begin to heal again and the wound can close.
That's good. That's so good. Oh my God. Okay. So I even put, as we're talking about trauma, like the closet being a mirror of trauma. There was something also, I
Mhm.
just want to pull this from your book, like you wrote
Yeah.
that trauma shifted Eve's name from who she was to what she did. I want to know, do
Yeah.
you think closets tell the same story, filled with clothes for the roles we play, not the person that we are?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. I've actually been processing that. The version of my
Mm,
how the version of myself that I want to be dresses and the version of me that feels most comfortable and confident dresses are two different ways.
yes, I'm there
I
too.
love how heels look. I don't actually like, I've never been excited to walk around in heels. Never. Never. I want to stand in the heel, look cute, and then kick them right off. Like, I've never been excited to walk around in heels. I have been excited to wear cute sneakers, cute sandals, cute flats. And I think sometimes we think that we can dress ourselves up into a version of ourselves that we hope to be. Now, I don't think that's always wrong, but
Hmm.
at some point, if we want the inside to align with the outside, we have to dress in a way that actually reflects who we are. And that's not a stylistic thing. For me,
Yeah.
I am like, I got sensory issues, girl. Turtlenecks, ugh, make me want to scratch my throat off. I'm like, "Ugh, get off of me. Get it off of me." I like stretchy things. I don't like tight things
Mm.
around my torso. And like, I realized I started hating dressing up because I was only dressing up in ways that looked good, not ways that felt good.
That's so good. And like even when I think about that, like you know how I used to be, so I got into this world by like being a wardrobe stylist. And so
I'm
I
sorry.
worked on like the teams of, Kanye and just celebrity styling. And I
Yeah.
realized even with that, like I used to feel like, oh, I got to dress the part to fit in and all this stuff. And it's just like when you listen to like cues, like how you're telling me, like, oh, like I don't like this. And people are trying to force a style on you. Oh, just wear it like fashion. Like you should be uncomfortable for a minute. I
Mhm.
feel like how you're saying right now, like the identity, like there's an identity
Yeah.
attached to even how you're
Yeah.
trying to dress up for the part per se. It's like you
Mhm.
could still be who you are because it doesn't change all of the knowledge, all of the gifting that
Yeah.
you have on the inside of you because you don't
Yeah.
look like someone else that's wearing. My closet used to reflect that. Like, and I got myself
Yeah.
into like, I mean, when I tell you thousands upon thousands of dollars of debt because I was trying
Yes.
to dress like a version of myself that I wasn't or trying to fit
Yep.
in until I
Yep.
found my style. And I'm like, look, take it or leave it. Like, I'm
Yep.
smart, I'm intelligent, I got something to
Yep.
give. You can have it.
Yep.
But if you're basing off of what I look like, I'm not going to be messy
Yeah.
or frumpy.
Yeah.
You just have to
Yeah.
figure out what your style is. And so I love
Yep.
that you even said, like, I'm in that place right now. Like,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people, even when I work with them, like they're struggling with that. Like, oh, I got this, and it was on whether it was on sale. That's my story. A sale hate to see me coming because
So
I would
did
be
you
like,
like
ooh, got Loewe's
yeah,
for $200. Like, and I don't even wear like
yeah,
I'm not wearing heels every day. Like I work
yeah,
from home and I'm in a closet sweating
yes,
bullets.
yep,
So like
yep,
things like that, it's like changing your mind. I had a friend asked me the question, and I was like, I'm gonna ask you because she was like, what happens when I want to be organized. I want to make
yeah,
sure that I'm focusing on these things, but maybe I'm just a creative. I'm just wired that way. Like, can I change
mhm,
it? And I'm like trying to tell her about neuroplasticity, and she looking at me like puzzled. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna ask the specialist. I'm gonna ask
yeah,
someone who is licensed in this. Like, is it
yes.
true that you're just wired a certain way and that you can't change?
Mm, I think it is true that we're wired a certain way. I think it's
Mm.
not true that we can't change.
Oh.
There, we are all wired specific ways, intricately, individually, specifically, right? And our lived experiences and our environments, they also affect how we show up and how our brain is wired. But we always have the ability to change. Now, the ability to change does not mean that we have an unlimited ceiling to have the genius that someone else has in a specialty that they have, right?
Mm.
But there are fundamental skills that we can learn. There are ways that we can change. And also, it's okay if you have to outsource the resources that you're struggling to develop.
That's
If you're
good.
like, I really struggle with organizing, maybe you should hire an organizer. Man, I really want to have a closet that's put together and I really want to have a wardrobe that's cohesive.
Hmm.
You can learn how to do that, but probably the best place to learn it is by being in close proximity to someone who already has mastered that skill. So why don't you bring them in and let them teach you as they help you, right? Because they can also debunk for you. Sometimes the thing about not knowing how to do something that you want to do is you don't even know what you don't know. You don't know what you should know,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what's not important to know, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, I need to work on this. And it's like, no, you don't, girl. You don't need that. I don't? No, you don't. But only an expert could tell you that you don't need that.
Oh, I was just about to ask you, well, how do we know what we don't need or don't need to know?
Yeah. Well, even like the idea of an edit. I used to be the kind of person, I can be an all or nothing person. I used to think like, I need a whole wardrobe. I
Me
need
too.
to like throw it all away, give it all to Goodwill. I used to be that kind of person.
Yeah.
Now my pockets did not agree with that thought process. But I did used to be that kind of person until I learned that, like, I think I watched like a YouTube video and someone was like, here's how you can keep some core pieces and kind of shift your wardrobe around these
Mm.
core pieces. I had to ask somebody who understood this space, someone who'd done this before and therefore had more confidence, more knowledge, and more expertise in the space.
That brings me to a good question. Cause like even you saying like hiring someone may say, oh, well, that's good for you because you probably got the funds and the money. I always tell people like we spend our money. Like I don't believe in that, just to put it out there. But I
Mm,
feel like we spend our money where we attach meaning to it, right? And
yeah,
so you may say, oh, therapy is too expensive, or like eating
yeah,
healthy is too
yeah,
expensive, right? But yet you will go stand in line for an iPhone, or you will go and stand in line for the next pair of Jordans.
yeah,
We have to, I think even this is why I want to loop you in on this, is like culturally, right? And so like
yeah.
my background, I'm Jamaican and Cape Verdean, but like,
Mm,
even in the African American culture, it's like
yeah.
we tend to overspend to make sure that we have this image. And I was there. I was guilty of it. I worked for a hedge
Yeah,
fund after college, and I was like, I gotta look the part because I'm one of the two out of the two Black women in the office. I gotta make
yeah,
sure I'm spending money, and ran up my credit card bill because I was trying to fit
yeah,
in. Like,
yep.
how do you like? What would you say to someone that's going through that, like the scarcity
Mm,
mindset?
yeah, yeah. How important, okay, can I ask you the question that I would really ask? Because I was
Yeah.
gonna do like, how important is this to you? This is a question I love to ask my clients. I'm a little silly in my sessions. I would say like, oh, do you have a child? If they do, then I use their child as a reference. I'll say, if someone was going to take your child away from you, if you didn't solve this problem in 7 days, what would you do right now?
Mm.
When you add desperation, all of a sudden there's urgency and there's resources and there's a little more scrappiness. Well, actually, I do got that friend who doesn't know how to dress. Maybe I'll ask her. Well, actually, you know what? Let me go through my subscriptions and delete the ones I don't watch.
Mm.
Listen, let me get my friend's Netflix. Sorry, Netflix. Let me get my friend's Netflix password and I'll slide her a 5 or whatever it is. Like all of a sudden, there's resources, but I think that the issue is some of us want change and we want to hold on to comfort in the exact same place.
And they can't live in the same place. They can't live in the same place. That's what you're pretty much telling us. Like, you
You
gotta.
literally have to let go of the
Mm.
comfort. Now, I tell my clients, it's not that comfort is bad. You have to let go of this comfort to
Mm.
embrace a discomfort that will bring a more aligned comfort.
I like that because I think
You know what I'm
even,
saying?
yeah, because even when it's like people are organizing their closets or they're going through, like, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. But that's why, like, for me, this is so important for me to get this message out that I believe God gave me in this like space, is because it's like you keep saying you don't have time, but you don't even know how much this is really affecting your life. You don't know how much this can add time to your life, because if
Yeah.
you think about like multimillionaires and billionaires and just people who have
Mhm.
reached a certain level, like their closets, I mean, even David Beckham, there was like a whole thing on his closet, like it is so immaculately organized that he
Yeah.
knows, and of course he probably has a team of people that do it, but again,
Yeah.
getting out of scarcity, he sees it as valuable, like, and
Yeah.
these are people that we want to eventually like aspire to get to, or their level,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, maybe if you mirror what they're
Yeah.
doing or see where they're investing their time and they're not
Mhm.
operating out of scarcity. And I feel like that is kind of hard for people to do. And again, that's where neuroplasticity and like you have to reprogram your mind and all this stuff comes in. But I
Yeah.
also feel like in the scarcity, I think there was something, if I can remember properly, in your book. Is it the scarcity deficit, or or did you mention something about a deficit?
I'm trying to think now.
I cannot remember. But anyway, I'm going to use this. I think it's
Yeah.
cultural too. Like, where do
Yeah.
you think in our culture as African Americans, because I see that a lot, even with my clients, like clients that have done consultations with me but have not moved forward with the service, which I'm always like,
Yeah.
it's cool. You'll come back when you
Yeah.
try to do it yourself. And they normally
Yeah.
do. But
hmm
they'll spend everything that looks good on the outside. I'm going to go buy the
hmm
Hermes bag, which is a lot of money, more than my services.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and buy like the Rolls Royce. I'm going to be driving around in this, especially out here in LA. Like, it's very common. Even, I wouldn't even say as much as in New York, but more so out in this Hollywood area,
Yeah.
like amongst our culture. And it's like, you're
Yeah.
willing to look like everything is good. But when I get in your closet, then I start seeing your insecurity. I had a client ask me, do I look rich, while I stood in the middle of her multi-million-dollar mansion? I'm like,
Mm.
this is deeper than what you think this is. So like,
Yeah.
how can you help our culture? Like, how can you help us like understand the importance of like getting beyond the mindset, reprogramming our mind, and like really tapping into whatever that wound is? What would you call that wound?
Well, I think the wound is a systemic wound, a wound that says that a Black person's only worthy of dignity if they look worthy of dignity.
Oh.
And I think that that was so incredibly true. It's still in some ways true for people across all races and ethnicities. But I think that sometimes we think it's more true than it actually is. And we create this confirmation bias where we are like, I need to look a certain way to get a certain type of treatment. And then you get a certain type of treatment because you look that way. And then you're like, okay, I have to keep looking this way. But you never put yourself in a position where you get the opportunity to see, if I looked different, could I also still be treated with dignity, right? If I didn't wear heels everywhere, would I still be treated with dignity and respect? Would I still be admired? Would I still be seen in a positive light? And sometimes every reward comes with a risk. Sometimes you have to take a chance and say, you know what? I'm not going to dress all the way up. I took the risk today. I'm not wearing no makeup.
Your skin looks, what's the skincare routine? That's a side note.
Thank you. Panoxyl and Cetaphil.
So
That's
good.
it. I keep it simple. But being able to say, like, you know what's most important here, my expertise or what I look like? Like, having to really like challenge yourself in here and say, where does my worth come from?
Yeah.
Where does my value come from? Even if sometimes there might be spaces where the world doesn't value you because of what you look like. But for that client, like, what does rich give you? Rich people are worthy of this and that. And it's like, okay, now money is a resource. That's awesome. But do you not think you're worth esteem, dignity, care, unless you're rich? And sometimes it really does get down to that. Sometimes people feel like, unless I look this way, I am not worthy. Right. And they may have heard those messages from family, from friends, from parents. My family's from Ghana, West Africa. So there's a reality that like, it really is about, don't go out there looking crazy, disgracing us, do not go out there. But when we came home, it was kind of like, it was finally our place we gave the best of ourselves to other people. The best of ourselves was for societal consumption. And I know for me, that's something that I'm reversing. No, the best of myself is for me, my husband and my kids. And so my house is going to look nice because I want to dwell in a nice house, not because I'm trying to show it off to anybody.
That's so good, because this closet confession for me, okay, I'm gonna be honest, like that was my story, like feeling like, oh, I give my best self to everybody. And I found out probably last year, I had a friend that was like honest with me. She was like, Shaniece, you codependent. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then I started reading the book called Codependency No More. And I said, yes, I am. So I got right into Coda. I've been in there for almost 2 years, working on myself, because I'm always willing to overextend myself for someone else. Or like the same story. My mom would be like, you're not going outside and, looking a mess. You need to make sure that you look put together. But at home, I could walk around, you know what I mean? Like in a t-shirt and
It's
like just feel
crazy. Yep.
comfortable. And so like even that pressure of like feeling like
Mhm.
I have to go out there and give myself away to everyone, like that in itself is like, as you were talking and saying that, I'm like, I'm working on reversing that because it shows
Yeah.
up in relationships where, oh
Yep.
my gosh, I can't date someone that makes more money than me, or I got to level up with
Mhm.
them, or I got to do like so many things come up from that one thing. And I never even thought until you said it
Yeah.
about like how our parents, even being like from our cultures, like that you have to go out and present yourself and give your best to everyone else. But
Yeah.
that affects me now in my 30s, you know? So like
Yeah.
you really just like maybe I'm sure it's helped a lot of people you or all of you listening, but it really helped me to a core of where
Mm.
I was questioning like I'm attaching my value to how I look or what I'm doing or like
Yeah.
how much I'm performing for people. And that's
Yeah.
always like the issue because I'll be like, oh, I'm okay.
Mm.
And then I'm at home crying in my closet. Okay.
Yeah.
Tears, asking God, what am I doing wrong? Why am I
Yeah.
like this? Like your book,
Yeah.
like how do I change
Right.
this? So thank you
Yes.
for sharing
You're
that
so welcome.
perspective. Like that's like that helped me in my closet
Mm.
confession.
I'm glad it
And
did.
it actually brings us right into that section of the podcast, to be honest, closet
Okay.
confessions. And this is the section I believe without I had a friend that shared this recently. She said that transformation can't happen without vulnerability. And I
Mhm.
strongly believe that. And that's why this section of the podcast, Closet Confessions, is so important, whether it's my confession, this time it's going to be your confession, or
Yeah.
like our listeners' confessions, because when you say it out loud, like it's something
Mhm.
about saying it out loud and acknowledging what it is that you can actually
Yeah.
start to like transform from that space. And
Yes.
so even therapists got closet confessions.
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
So
Absolutely.
we always say here that our closet never lies. So I want to
Mhm.
know, what is your closet confession? What does it actually reveal about what you're still working through today?
Ooh. I think my closet confession is learning how to tell people in real time that something they did made me feel upset or uncomfortable.
Mm.
Like, I even as a therapist, when I'm being paid to be direct, um, confrontation, like, I as a therapist, now I could go ahead and be like, "That was not acceptable."
Mm.
But when it's people I love deeply because I never wanna be a source of harm, I
Hmm.
realize that sometimes I wait too long. Like, something will hurt my feelings, and I'll wait too long, and I'll bring it up, and they'll be like, "I don't even remember that." And really, it could have been something that could have been done with quickly if I just said, "Hey, I didn't like that,"
Hmm.
and move forward. So I think that that's something I'm working on is it's okay to let people know in real time in the moment,
Oh,
like, "That hurt my feelings, and I didn't like that." I do it, I'm getting better at it, but it still brings up, like, that's my rewiring and
mm.
discomfort. It still brings up, like, "Ooh, I don't wanna do this," but I know I have to, and so then I do.
That's so good. What is something you tell yourself like in the moment when it's like you're used to retreating or being silent that you may
Mhm.
have internally told yourself like, no, now's the time, speak up, do it.
Yeah, avoidance has never built intimacy.
Hmm.
Like, do you wanna be close with this person? Do you want an intimate relationship with this
Mm,
person? Like, avoidance has never built intimacy.
that's so
This
good.
is how intimacy is built, and this person is safe to tell how you feel, because that's my own trauma, now we're getting deep, that, like, there are times where I have said, like, "Hey, that really hurt my feelings," and it was the end of the friendship, and I was like, "Oh, no. Oh my god. If I knew that friendship was gonna end, I wouldn't have said nothing," you
Yes.
know? Like, I would have just took it on the chin and been quiet about it, and so I think there's a part of me that still relives, like, anytime I'm speaking to someone to say that made me uncomfortable, there's a part of me that feels like, "Oh my gosh, is this about to be the end of our friendship?" Is this about to
Mm.
and it is never that deep with any of my friends. They're so sweet, loving, and understanding, but having to remind myself, like, avoidance has never built intimacy. You need to speak up, share how you feel, and this is how intimacy is built.
That's so good. And I think that's going to help a lot of our listeners. It's definitely for me, like it helps me because I am like that in relationships where I'm afraid to say something because they're going to leave. I'm so used to people
Mm.
leaving, and I need
Yeah.
to probably even explore that deeper as it like right now, like the Holy Spirit's like, ah, you need to tap into that. But for me, I think it's because I grew up in like a split home. You know, my father, I mean,
Mhm.
I know my dad, I love my dad, but it always
Yeah.
felt like, why didn't you choose us? Why didn't you stay here with this side of the
Yeah.
family and you went and had another family? But
Mm.
you saying that, like speaking up is something that with my life coach that I got at the top of this year, it was like something I used to be able to do for myself as a kid, like advocate for myself, self advocacy,
Yep.
right? And so there's times when I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna say nothing because they're gonna leave. That I have to force myself, almost like Nike. I be telling myself, just do it. You
Do
know,
it.
just say
Yep.
something. Or
Yes, take yourself up a little
I
bit.
would find a way to say it, and that turns into manipulation because you're not being direct. You're trying to beat around the bush to
Hmm.
actually doing it. And so, like, what you're
Yeah.
saying is like, literally, it's. I'm sure people can relate in different forms and different contexts of
Yeah.
like, this is part of the rewiring that I have to go through. Um,
Yeah.
so thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that, because that helped
Of course.
me. And like something I can bring to my therapy session, like, oh, like this, like, how do we explore this?
Yeah. I love that.
I feel like even with like, you know, closet confessions, right? Like it's
Yeah.
also, you also need like the closet prescription, which I like to call on this
Mhm.
podcast the closet RX, right? You get the
Yes.
prescription. And so before we do that portion, I sent you 2 images of closets, which they'll put on the screen, not right now, but like
Okay.
you'll
I'm
be
like,
able to see it for those who virtually have who are virtually watching this. But
huh?
I'll just read the scenarios to you. So there's 2 case studies that I want you to help me
Okay.
walk through and dissect.
Okay.
And I'll read both of them, and then we can see what the space is actually like telling them, like what's going on. This is kind of like what I like
Okay.
to give my clients after I do a consultation. Like, you're going to get this closet RX. You're going to get what's happening. So the first
Yes.
case study is the closet. She grew up in a home where money wasn't flowing the way that it is now for her. Now that
Hmm.
she's in media and constantly in front of people or the camera, she buys to make sure she's never wearing anything twice. And she claims it's the nature of
Mm.
her job. So I have to keep shopping. I just got to keep buying things, right?
Mm.
Which is true to an extent. Her closet is overflowing with duplicates, like items that still have the tags on them, things that she forgot that she bought because it's not organized. It's in 2 separate places. And
Lord.
also, it's just like shopping bags that she still has not pulled the items out of as well. Yet every
Yeah.
morning she stands in front of the closet and it still feels like she has nothing to wear. Her excuse to me was, oh my gosh, like I don't know how to put things together, but she has a shopper and a stylist. So it's kind of like, all right, what's happening here for real? So behind the rack is a story of scarcity that never left her, even when her circumstances change. She has the money
Mm.
now. She's not worried. Like when it was time to let go, there was
Yeah.
some resistance, like when we did the edit, but there wasn't that much resistance. She was ready. She got to the point where she was
Yeah.
like ready to change. However,
Yeah.
when I went back a couple of months later, the closet was packed again. And then we was back
Yeah.
at the same issue.
Yeah.
So like the cycle, and I guess we can call it a dysfunctional pattern, like that
Yeah.
she just keeps doing it. So what would you say? How would you help me like
Mm.
explain to her what's actually happening, like the root of the clutter?
I would actually start by talking about the 6 stages of change.
Let's talk about it.
And I forgot all like I know what they are, but in my head I'm like, what? I don't want to mess up the order, but I do know the 6th stage of change is relapse.
Mm.
That sometimes we think that we break a cycle, like it's just like you go around and you break the cycle and then you just move forward. But sometimes breaking a cycle is about going through the same cycle over and over again, but
Mm.
getting deeper wisdom and higher perspective each time. So that one day you get up here and you're like, oop, I get it. I have all this wisdom
Mhm.
of why I keep coming back. I came back to it because I don't make time to actually create outfits. So I get up and I want an outfit to pop out at me. Okay, I need to wake up earlier, or I need to set aside more time. Or I'm realizing I'm being influenced by the images that I'm seeing online, and I feel like I need to recreate what I'm seeing instead of wear what feels comfortable or what's available to me, right? Or I'm realizing that when I have money, I feel like I have to spend it on clothes because my image is so important, and that's why I'm buying
Mm.
duplicates. So just because someone's going through the same cycle each time does not mean that they're not in the process of cycle breaking. because relapse is the sixth stage of cycle breaking. It doesn't mean we'll always end there, but
Mm-hmm.
it does mean that it takes many times to go through something to finally break the cycle. And I would also say a core issue might be like a commitment to a appearance. You know, I can't say perfectly, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're so committed to appearing a specific way that we are willing to cast aside all other important qualities for that. Like, forget my finances, forget, the fact that I have 18 pieces of this, as
Mm-hmm.
long as I can maintain this image. And so sometimes it can go down to like, first of all, that felt very personal, rude. But I felt like one of the things I gave myself was a challenge. I said, for my next 5 speaking engagements, I am only wearing what I have available in my closet.
Mm.
Regardless of the theme, the stage, whatever it is, I'm wearing the clothes that I have. Also, sometimes newness gives us a dopamine hit
Yes, that is
that,
true.
like, yeah, girl, it's not even that cute. It's just new. And you bought something last week that was new, and now you can't even remember what you bought,
That's facts.
you know?
That dopamine
So,
effect is like, figure out how to make this new. That's what I tell my clients. Like, how can
yes,
we restructure this look? If you got to cut a sleeve off, make it a new
yep.
piece. Like, that's
Put the
my,
sleeve off. Do it. That
yes.
actually, yeah. Sleeve off.
um, Quick question on this one. Why do
Mhm.
we keep buying more things even when it never feels like it's enough? Like, when does it become
Mhm.
enough?
Ooh, you know what? I think many times, I think for everyone it can be different, but many times overconsumption is
Mm,
rooted in present relief. We're not thinking about long term, it's not going to be enough. We're thinking about what feels good right now.
mm,
What feels good right now. And then also, because of how we've been socialized to experience exclusion
mm-hmm.
when we don't get things that we see other people getting.
Oh,
It's also about social inclusion. If everyone's getting these pair of shoes and they only release 150 pair, and the people who have the 150 pair are considered elite or cool, or
yep.
someone's going to stop you, it may not even be because you like the shoe. It might be because that shoe represents a sense of popularity, a sense of positive exclusion. Like, I'm different. I'm somebody who's set aside.
Mm-hmm.
On the other end, you can feel like, well, everyone else has got these. For me in middle school, it was Uggs. I asked my parents for a pair of Uggs and they got me bear claws. And what really took me to the
Listen,
edge was the fact that they were the same price.
yes.
I was like, why would you give me these?
Girl,
And
that was like when Reeboks for me was when Reeboks was 2 for $59.99 at Kids Foot Locker. That was my year. That was what I was
yes,
wearing.
yes. And it was like, I'm wearing these bear claws, and the bear claws didn't feel like enough because they didn't have the same UGG label.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about feeling like you can fit in, which I
Yes.
think for a lot of people, it's like that. I mean, that's true even as adults. We're trying to fit
Yeah.
in. I want you to see something on me and feel like I'm special. And if
Yes.
I don't have that, then I don't feel special.
That's so good. All right. Just for the sake of time, because I don't want to keep you all day, because I can talk to you all day. I love talking to you.
Yes.
The second case study, right? So at this closet is completely put together. One of my
Mhm,
clients who I think she just likes to have a conversation with me.
mhm.
But the closet is completely put together. And at first glance, you see it as like, oh my God, this is her dream closet. Everything's color coded, neatly
Yeah.
displayed handbags, all of
Yeah.
the luxury handbags, rows of shoes that look like they belong in a magazine spread. She's polished, successful, and she's always put together when she steps outside. But when you open up them drawers, okay, them drawers tell a different story.
Shoved.
Stuff with like clothes and just things that don't even belong in a closet are shoved into this drawer. But she doesn't
Yeah.
want anyone to see it. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm like, it's order as performance, perfection on display, while the hidden
Mm,
chaos is revealing some sort of trauma and pain she's still managing in private. How will we
mm.
uncover that? Like when you see if you've seen something like this, like what is something that you would start to ask her, that you would present to her to kind of get to the root of like what is happening here?
Yeah, I would ask what feels more natural to you,
Mm.
because it might be the opposite. it might be that she's naturally somebody who doesn't care how things look, but feels like she needs to be someone who's put together. That's what I often find is like people who are really stringent and orderly, sometimes they're people who love it. Like they genuinely are like that. But
Hmm.
sometimes it's like we can have adaptive trauma responses. We can have adaptive traits that come from our past wounding experiences. So we could be people who are really put together, schedule
Hmm.
on point, clothes on point, everything organized, but it's coming from a place of anxiety. Right. So I
Mm.
would ask her because I wouldn't want to assume either way, like, what feels more natural to you? Shoving things in a drawer
Ah.
and slamming it shut, or, making sure everything is perfectly presented. And tell me how you feel when you're organizing things, and then tell me how you feel when you stick things in the drawer. Right.
Mm. That's so good. Like, what if she says, like, people with also, this is not her per se, but people who have
Hmm.
ADHD, they want to be organized or they know they need a system. How does that play
Yeah.
into it? Because sometimes that is very difficult, and that is a whole nother podcast in itself, like
Oh,
organizing or
yeah.
getting organized with ADHD. Like, I feel like
Yes.
it's becoming more common now, and I try not to be as insensitive to people when they're like, I got ADHD, and I'm like, are you sure you have it? Like, don't just label yourself.
Yeah, did you
What?
go get diagnosed? Well, I can tell you, I am diagnosed with
Mm.
ADHD. And you want to know what I find? I have an organization system, but the organization system is not aesthetically pleasing.
Ah.
I know where things are, and again, the organization system that I have gives me relief in the moment and stress in the long run, which is
Wow.
why I still have to learn how to be organized in a different way because I'm trying to think of the long run instead of in the moment. In the moment, the way the doom piles be doom piling, I'm like, oh yeah, I like this is like and I'm not. There's only two pieces right there. I'll take it up when the pile's full, then I'll take it all
Mm.
upstairs. But then one day you walk in and you're overwhelmed from work and kids and making dinner, and you see that pile, and now I'm pissed off. And I'm like, oh, why
Yes.
is this pile here? Right. But again, everything, ADHD does not impede our ability to develop skills.
Thank you.
It teaches us where our baseline naturally is, but it does not mean that it's not a hall pass to say I don't need to learn this skill and I can't learn this skill. It does mean it might be harder for you to learn the skill, and it may mean that you need a different method to learn the skill, but you can
Mm.
still learn the skill.
That's so good. Okay, my last question for you before we shut this down. What's
Okay.
the danger of performing order instead of pursuing healing?
Woo. Things look good, but they don't feel good.
Mm.
And like feel good to you. Right? Like that's many of us. I mean, I work with women that my practice calls PFPs, public facing professionals.
Mm.
Oftentimes they are beasts on the stage in the boardroom while they're on tour. Like they got it together. They have the look, but internally they're deteriorating
Mm.
because all their energy is going towards presenting a level of organization that can help their success, but they're forgetting to budget that time,
Mm.
energy, and intentionality to their own personal life. And sometimes that doesn't feel as important because no one's looking,
Oh.
right? So making something look pretty
Hmm.
is not the same thing as helping that thing become healthy.
Wow. That's so good. So, like, for me, like a clue in the closet, what would you say a clue in the closet for me to identify someone like that? What's one
Mhm.
clue that I can look for?
Does it have to be closet related or can it just be
No,
life?
no, a
No,
conversation because I
I already
see like
know.
it's in the stories that I start to see the
Yep.
patterns.
This is my number one. It's kind of odd.
Mhm.
Holding your pee.
Mm.
Holding your pee like all day. Like, oh no, I can hold my pee for like 9 hours. And
Me
it's like,
too.
why?
I'm
Like,
guilty.
and it's like, you're, why are you putting off releasing a bodily function that your body is letting you know?
Wow.
If you feel like you need to go pee, it's because your body's telling you, and I need to do this like relatively soon. And I find that people who hold their pee, they can show up, but like
Mm.
internally, they've become accustomed to navigating discomfort for long periods of time.
Yep.
Like they will really feel like they need to go pee for 3 hours.
I'm gonna
And it's like,
I'm gonna add that question to my questionnaire. How long can you go without using the restroom? I'm gonna
yes.
put as the questionnaire at the beginning when I'm working with someone. Oh my
Yep.
gosh, that was
Yeah.
first of all, Kobe, giving you your flowers and all of the sparkles and confetti and everything. Thank you so much. This was like so good, number one. And
Thank you for
I
having
gotta have
me.
you back. When you're in LA, we gotta do
Yes,
something, okay?
for sure.
It was
Absolutely.
definitely a pleasure having you on. And you helped me to prove my hypothesis about the closet. Like,
Yes.
it's not just
Yes.
about the clothing. There's so many things, like the stories, there's the trauma,
Yeah.
there's the emotions, there's the things that, like, the space that we always overlook has the opportunity to really transform our lives if we just dig deeper
Mm,
and call in help. Call
yeah.
in a therapist, a licensed therapist like Kobe,
Yes.
or get you an organizer who is a
Yeah.
scientist. Hello, just putting it out there.
Yes.
Me, you know, but like,
Yeah.
literally calling some help. Friends. I mean, Sex and the City got it right when they did a closet edit and they had all the girls over, and it just
Yep.
bring community into what you're trying to do to get to the root
Yep.
of your clutter, whether it's mental or physical clutter. And I cannot thank you enough, Kobe, just for being here and taking the time out of your schedule. Definitely want to ask you, where can people find you? What do you have going on? What things can we also like give to our community that will actually help
Yeah.
them heal their trauma?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. You can find me at Kobe Campbell underscore on all the social medias. I have my Oasis retreat coming up. I think I have a couple more speaking engagements this year. You can find that on my website. And yeah, I just love to be able to serve and connect with you in any way that, I find you on the interwebs.
Y'all make sure y'all follow her on Instagram, and her TikTok can be popping. Like, she gives tips that's gonna help you like heal and like really like start thinking about things in a different way, a different perspective. Again, like, my heart is full. I'm so grateful, so grateful. I cannot thank you enough. So thank you so much, and I'll see you when
You.
you get to LA.
Thank you. See you soon, girl.
Okay, thank you.